Teacher's ill-advised field trip is to a strip club. Plus, a teaching assistant accidentally emails nude pics to students. This reminds me of the article just from the other day, the 17th. Condom booze basket gets teacher fired. She denies giving students naughty prom gift. It says that the 31-year-old was fired from Indiana's Hanover Central High School on Tuesday for allegedly taking teens to a strip club to celebrate a student's birthday. The ex-teacher also faces jail time. He's been charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. It wasn't the only inappropriate teacher story this week. The University of Iowa teaching assistant accidentally sent nude pics to students in their math class. This other teacher rented a penthouse for 15 students the weekend after her prom, putting a gift basket of basically booze and condoms. I saw this article on well, it's being carried everywhere, but including InfoWars, and it's like under fire over underage alcohol. The Maryland Attorney General and this gubernatorial candidate Doug Gansler is in hot water again. Basically, a teen party picture showing him sitting down with people drinking alcohol, and it's pretty crazy because they were like saying, "Well, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you do anything?" And yeah, you see the teenage girls dressed like prostitutes. I mean, nobody addresses the issues that this is way too far gone to accuse someone who was apparently going to see his son, dropped in to see his son. He said the party was chaperoned. To blame him for not doing anything, it's more of the parents that own that house. Responsibility. I mean, I guess the only thing that you can get him on is that he started a PSA, basically that fights drunk driving and underage drinking. So these are kind of like obvious things. I mean, politics are hypocrite. If honesty was incorporated into the American political system, everything would fall apart. This is part of the culture, and if you're going to raise your kids to be like that and allow it to happen in order to be cool, then and be a better parent. You can't just blame politicians for not doing something like that. I mean, most parents are actually the ones that hold the parties with the alcohol and chaperone it. I think the other thing too is the pressure on our society to have basically have you want to grow up as fast as you possibly can. And basically they say, oh, the children help the children, but life in general, I think, especially newborns, aren't really treated as anything but like fetal tissue, just some kind of material object or something. That's why I kind of, my own personal view is it's kind of a miracle if you can really make it into this world past the birthing process, being raised with a functional family, making it through, depending on where you're at in high school, what you do, whether you're a jock or something like that, making it through the horrors of the social engineering project of high school and education, and into the career world, and not lose your mind or kill yourself. Really, I mean, you should get a medal for that. Dead baby found wrapped in blanket on California Recycling Center conveyor belt. That's an interesting place. Workers at the Southern California recycling plant found a dead infant wrapped in a blanket on the belt. Employees were sorting through the recyclables when they discovered it around 11:30 a.m. on Thursday. Then this article from the BBC from the 23rd, I met otaku who believes themselves to be in relationship with virtual girlfriends. Unless something happens to boost Japan's birth rate, its population will shrink by a third between now and 2060. One reason for the lack of babies is the emergence of a new breed of Japanese men, the taco, who love manga, anime, and computers more than sex. They're the world's largest metropolis and home to more than 35 million people. So it says, so on the face of it, it's hard to believe that there's any kind of population problem at all. They're a generation of geeks who have grown up through 20 years of economic stagnation and chosen to tune out and immerse themselves in their own fantasy worlds. That's kind of part of this article I was covering. Japan's celibacy syndrome frightens officials. Why young Japanese are giving up on love, marriage, and sex. 36% of the males 16 to 19 had no interest in sex, a figure that had doubled in the space of 2 years. So, take their virtual girlfriends on actual dates to the park and buy them cakes to celebrate their birthdays. And the game, he's 15 years old, but in reality he's 38. As long as I have the time, I'll continue the relationship forever. It's kind of interesting. Someone said, why does every article coming out of the U.S. and Britain always have the bogus claim that Japanese economy has been stagnant for 20 years, whether it's outperformed the U.S. and UK for a decade? So maybe there's another reason for it. Crime is getting worse. Violent crime in America increased 15% last year. It was up 12% on property crime, and if it continues to increase at this rate, it will basically double in just 6 years. Desperate people do desperate things, and as you read below, there are people out there already stealing entire truckloads of food. Remember that girl that was stealing food, and the police officer basically paid for it? I think it was like $100, $200 worth of groceries because she couldn't afford it to feed her family. In the future, when people are extremely hungry or crazy for their next drug hit, they won't think twice about invading your home or pulling you out of your vehicle. So the reason I don't like this is because, this is a good site, the economic collapse and everything. I've gotten a lot of good news from there. But, the preppers, you got to hold your hunker down and build a bunker and be scared of everybody and shoot people for whatever you got, right, to survive. I mean, in a world like that, do you really want to survive? I mean, can people just try to form some kind of communities and come together a little bit, I'm not saying the whole world come together as one, but, man. I mean, it's true, yeah. When people don't have something, other people have something, they're going to want it. If you can't produce it by yourself, if you can't purchase it with money, you're going to steal it. Okay, shifting here, and hopefully you guys don't get offended by these articles here. British kids should be forced to learn about religious beliefs. The British children as young as 4 should forcibly learn about religious beliefs, according to the Religious Educational Council for England and Wales. Represents about 60 faith groups. So right off the bat, you kind of think they're going to force religion on them. But I'm not sure what to take from this article. It kind of seems now that they're actually having them question not so much religion, because I don't like religion at all, really, because I think it's organized spirituality. It's institutionalized spirituality. It should come from within. Everybody pretty much can sense it. You don't need to be taught it, and you don't need to be screamed at telling that you're going to go to some dark place and burn for eternity. We're here for a reason to experience stuff, but you see where they go to this, they just bypass that whole, religious thing or spiritual thing by discounting religion, which they should, to just, there's no God, right? If religion represents God, well, then there must be no God. The council said in a report that it should also be made compulsory for older kids to learn how to enter discussions about more philosophical issues such as, does God exist, or where did the universe come from? This requires primary school children to visit places of worship such as churches, mosques, and synagogues. The urgent need for reinvigorating religious education comes only a week following an Ofsted report, which found less than half of the schools in England have been able to satisfy religious knowledge of pupils. This is while the English educational system has made religious education compulsory to teach. They say that they can discuss different perspectives on questions about the beginnings of life on Earth so that they can describe different ways science and religions treat questions of origins. In secondary school, they can extend and deepen their knowledge and understanding of a range of religions and worldviews. I mean, ultimately, as far as religion goes, like I said, I don't really agree with it, but I think people should have some kind of choice. I don't like how it's forced on people and people are put into guilt trips over it. I mean, you hear a lot of people that are devout Christians and they're just, they're bashing Muslims, and then you got Muslims that hate Christians, and then you got Jews that hate Muslims. And it just goes on and on and on. It's like that hermit cave session I did about they're basically all from the Abrahamic, they're all Abrahamic religions. They all have like the same connection to Moses and Abraham and that. And, I can't quote you biblical texts and stuff, but it just seems to me that they all just basically came from the same source. in order to control people. The story of Jesus Christ was invented as a system of mind control to enslave the poor. Is this me saying this? I'm not going to really say whether I agree with it or not. I think it's intriguing and interesting. But it says here, maybe, maybe not. The Bible can mean anything to anyone. The flip side of what's described in this piece is liberation theology, which is a political movement in the Roman Catholic theology which interprets the teachings of Jesus Christ in relation to a liberation from unjust economic, political, and social conditions, described as the interpretation of Christian faith through the poor's suffering, their struggle and hope, and a critique of society and the Catholic faith and Christianity through the eyes of the poor, and by detractors as Christianized Marxism. The guy from Cryptagon says, personally, I believe in outer space. But a controversial American biblical scholar set to make his first appearance in London presented a discovery that he claims proves the story of Jesus Christ was invented as a system of mind control to enslave the poor. He had a book called Caesar's Messiah. Roman conspiracy to invent Jesus asserts that Christianity did not begin as a religion but was actually a sophisticated government propaganda exercise used to pacify the subjects of the Roman Empire. He said it was used as a form of mind control to produce slaves that believed God decreed their slavery. He says acts of insurrection by Jewish sects who were awaiting the arrival of the so-called warrior Messiah in Palestine were a perpetual problem for the Roman Empire, and that after the empire had exhausted all traditional means of dealing with the problem, they resorted to psychological warfare. They came up with the idea that the way to stop the spread of zealous Jewish missionary activity was to create a competing belief system. That's when the peaceful Messiah story was invented. And there was huge income inequality going on in the Roman Empire, financial bondage and slavery. So it would be a good way to anyway that would be a good way to get the slaves to basically bred in circuses and stuff type to get them to be passive and not uprise against the system of control would be good, I guess. So I don't know if it's true or not, but it's worth considering, I guess. A bill would require all Pennsylvania public schools to display "In God We Trust" motto. He said that he's sponsoring the bill to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the U.S. Mint printing the motto on American currency. There's all different ways I can go with this, different paths I can take, but like I said before, money is kind of a religion for people. I mean, that's their god. The monetary system is a religion, and the money is their god. So I mean, that's makes sense that they would have that on there. And people worship different gods. I mean, people could say, "Oh, the founding fathers were Christians," and it's like, well, not really. Most of them were deists. They believed in God, but they weren't sure who or what it was, or I think the main thing though is that when they push the atheist thing to tell you that there's nothing. It kind of leaves you kind of desolate without any hope. So help me God, part of Air Force Academy Cadet Oath. And you might be an atheist and you may not see it that way. But, I don't know. I've never actually delved into atheism, so I don't have that perception. Not say that you're a bad person if you are either, So help me God, part of Air Force Academy Cadet Oath, made optional. So they made it optional now that the Air Force cadets have to say, so help me God. I bet this is a bunch of BS, because this is like the whole rewards and punishment thing. Oh, well, if you go against orders that the military and the state tells you, you're going to go to hell. So that's what that's all about. It's funny how it works, too, because, I saw that on InfoWars, and they had a lot of Christians there, and it's like, so Christians are going to be all up in arms about that, but it's like, no, wait a minute, think about it. If you're a Christian and you don't want to follow orders of bombing, like, some farmers and children and grandmothers with drones or whatever, or shooting them and blowing them up, then you say, well, I'm not going to do that. So I'm glad that I didn't say, so help me God, or swear to God, because I'm not going to go to hell for doing that. And you have this. So, religion aside, I do think there is some kind of moral decay that's going on in America. Pop star Keisha, I've never even heard of her, but says her vagina is haunted. Decadence, debauchery, and depravity poisoning a whole generation. Consists of preteen girls. That's her audience. Says that she has to be exorcised because she had sex with a ghost. So Kate Perry, she wore this shirt about the Virgin Mary and stuff like that. Her dad's like a strict Christian or something like that, saying that the generation is going to hell in a handbasket, which may be right, but her way of running the opposite direction from that is completely to where they want her to go. And people like Rihanna, these are idols. they're kind of disrespecting people's faith. And once these religions are destroyed, and atheism and nihilism is blamed for people's hopelessness, they'll be led to worshiping the serpent. Thank you.